Good morning and thanks for joining us here on The Real Story. I'm Emma Wulfhorst. The Democratic National Convention was this past week, one which changed drastically after just about a month ago, President Biden bowed out of the race and threw his support behind Vice President Kamala Harris and her chosen running mate, Governor Tim Walz. But is the party behind Harris? Well, we've spoken to several delegates about their perspectives and experiences, along with one delegate who held his vote from Harris. But first, with all this upheaval in the race and the recent political chaos, a lot has changed, but some has stayed the same, like party values, which is what Connecticut Senator Chris Murphy spoke about on the big stage to the nation's delegates this past week. Take a listen to the moment making rounds now on social media.
Engraved on the Statue of Liberty is a poem. The last line reads, "I lift my lamp beside the golden door." For generations, that lamp has called people to start a brave new life in America. My ancestors, your ancestors, and the parents of the next President of the United States of America.
After Murphy's speech, I wanted to check in with Connecticut's delegates. Here's a glimpse at what a few told me straight from Chicago ahead of the final night of the DNC. Take a look.
Besides exhausting, it has been incredible. And somehow it's been long days and long nights. And each morning we were able to still wake up with energy, enthusiasm holding over from the last night because we know it's going to be even more incredible the next day. The amount of people that are packed into our stadium, spending time with my whole Connecticut delegation, it has been such an electric experience. And I'm shocked that I'm still standing.
The extraordinary thing about this convention, beyond the energy, is that you see what a tremendous bench the Democratic Party has and how many really effective messengers are out there drawing a clear contrast with what Donald Trump represents versus what the Democratic Party stands for and the Harris-Walz ticket stand for. And I think you have a whole lot of people here who are celebrating this week, but are ready to get to work every day between now and Election Day.
We've all, of course, been watching and following along. I know myself, I've seen all the speeches this week so far, but we know the convention is more than just that. As you said, thousands of people coming together in Chicago. Can you tell me a little bit more about what some of the emotions have been like, especially coming out of the past few weeks and months of some real political chaos? Can you just give us a little bit of insight into the emotions and some of the conversations you've been having?
It's been such a strange mix because we're all feeling so much at the same time. The swirling emotion has been overwhelmingly positive. People are excited. People are enthusiastic. This feels like fun for people. Politics so often feels arduous and tedious and like a chore. It's our civic duty to be engaged and involved as voters, as participants in our democracy. But when we get to have fun with this, I mean, we haven't done the Macarena yet, like past conventions, but the enthusiasm, the cultural competency, we are incorporating so many aspects of what is hot right now in media and news and music to show people that we are with them, that we're listening to them, that we're listening to some of the great songs on the radio, and that we are here to foster a movement built fundamentally on joy, because it is that joy that is propelling us to seek a better tomorrow, to care for one another, to enjoy this time together, and to really build a democracy together.
In the weeks leading up to this convention, you felt just an enormous amount of energy and enthusiasm and sense of purpose and unity among Democrats, I think across the country, but certainly in Connecticut. And you feel that here in Chicago.
Just a couple weeks ago, this was supposed to be President Biden's nomination. You know, this race and this convention has really had historic timing here and a lot of emotions as well. And, you know, personally, you know a little something about passing the torch. We saw in the, mayoral election, and I spoke with you, on your way out of office there. Can you just talk at all about that, about how maybe this convention feels a little bit different?
I think things came together so quickly because we all know how much is at stake. And Kamala Harris has shown herself to be a really effective candidate over this last month. But there's an incredible amount of respect and admiration and gratitude and affection for President Biden. And he got a hero's welcome and a hero's thank you on Monday night. And he really has had one of the most consequential presidencies in my lifetime. But we're also grateful to him that he made the decision to pass the torch. There's no question that gave us the opportunity to bring a message to the American people that's about looking ahead, continuing the progress we've made. The next 75 days or so are about getting out there and doing the work.
As Hartford's mayor, you've spent a lot of time and a lot of your life having conversations, even tough conversations with everyday people who are worried about their everyday issues. And, some people who don't agree with you and some who do. So I'm curious if you can tell us a little bit about those conversations so far this election. What are you bringing back to these discussions, maybe post DNC, but before polls open here in Connecticut? Is there anything that you think will impact Connecticut voters?
No, I think Governor Walz put it really well when in his speech he talked about what the policies outlined in Project 2025 and what the Republican nominees and vice presidential nominee are talking about. They're talking about ripping away even more rights from women, taking away even more reproductive freedom. You have J.D. Vance talking about his problem with women who don't have children. They've laid out an agenda that, as Governor Walz said, nobody's asking for. This is not popular among the American people. On the other hand, you have Vice President Harris and Governor Walz who are talking about issues that really do matter. Issues like, paid sick leave, bringing down the price of prescription drugs, controlling cost of living, and continuing the progress that we've made on infrastructure, on building up our industrial base and innovation, on tackling the climate crisis.
And from your experience in municipal government, trying to provide for, everyday people's lives, everyday people's needs, how important is who's in the Oval Office and also Connecticut's relationship with whoever that administration is, not just policy-wise, but also funding? We've seen in the past couple of years a lot of federal funding coming to Connecticut, specifically to the capital city of Hartford. So how important is it that people really know who's taking over that office?
Yeah, look, funding matters, but what matters more than funding is just having partners in trying to solve problems. And I was able to see a study in contrast, right? I was mayor during a time when President Trump was in office, and I was mayor during a time when President Biden was in office. And when our federal delegation, our great federal delegation, Senator Murphy, Senator Blumenthal, members of Congress, could work hand in hand with the administration and with local governments in trying to solve problems, whether it was during the pandemic or after, versus a Trump administration that was just constantly at odds, constantly looking to pick fights, never focused on solving problems, always focused on politics, and for them it was a politics of division. So I saw a really extreme example of what it means to work with a presidential administration that wants to solve problems and what it means to work with or try to work with an administration that's not focused on solving those problems. So it absolutely matters. Now, it also matters, of course, that the president has partners in Congress, and that's why the Senate races and the House races are so important. In Connecticut, we've got a battleground race, Jahana Hayes in the 5th District, and I think a lot of Democrats in Connecticut are going to be doing everything possible to make sure that she wins, along with all of the rest of our delegation.
A lot of focus of this campaign, especially once the baton was passed from Biden to Harris, has really been geared towards bridging those gaps, bringing all different groups of people under this umbrella of the Democratic Party, whether it comes to age, to different stances, to race, to even those who might not be a part of the party. I saw calls the past couple of days to independent and unaffiliated voters. But, we have seen in Chicago at the convention, some people either, staging sit-ins, holding signs, challenging Harris's position on aid to Israel. And there's been a really big focus on the war in Gaza. Closing out this week, do you feel the Democratic Party needs to have more of those tough conversations and challenging Harris's positions, not just on the war in Gaza, but, maybe for other issues. We know she just started her campaign, but there's also a really quick turnaround to the general election, just about 8 weeks. So, whether it's these global issues like Gaza or something else, do you think there needs to be more room for some of these tougher conversations?
Okay. I think right now the focus is on the fact that we have a choice as a country between a woman who spent her life fighting to uphold the rule of law and somebody who has tried to put himself above the law, somebody who has spent her life as a champion for women's rights and reproductive freedom, and somebody who is proud that he was responsible for overturning Roe. That's what we're focused on right now.
I think there's two parts to this. We are constantly expanding our base of the Democratic Party and building this grand coalition that can win a national election, because we know it's not enough to win in blue states. We need to win in these purple states where there are plenty of independents. And even in blue states, unaffiliated voters in Connecticut are rapidly the growing portion. People are skeptical of the two major parties and want to know that there is a place for them, their concerns, and their politics in whatever coalition they're able to join. And to that point, we have had former Republicans come and speak to us, the former Lieutenant Governor of Georgia. I admit, I myself, when I first registered when I was 17 years old, I registered as a Republican. At this point in time, I have never been more proud to be a Democrat because of how we bring people in. And that includes having, differences of opinions and differences in policy. But all of us are united by a love of democracy, a love of freedom, and a concern for one another. And that extends to foreign policy issues.
And I thought it was interesting you brought up there, back when you registered to vote, you registered as a Republican. Now you're a delegate from Connecticut at the DNC in 2024. As you mentioned, which I think is a really important part here for us in Connecticut, there are so many independent and unaffiliated voters. Yeah. What, if any, moments from this convention or issues in particular that have been focused on, do you personally think should make voters vote for the Democratic ticket in a few weeks come October early voting, November, the official general election?
Yes, and very important to remember, we've got 14 days of early voting ahead of the elections in Connecticut this year, our first time with early voting. I think it really comes down to one of the most central points of our messaging, which is freedom. Across the board, across so many issues, it comes down to whether or not we want government to be allowing us more freedom in what we do, in what healthcare choices we have available to us, and what job opportunities we have available to us. The ways in which we can express our love and share our love with people that we care about, versus this dark vision of Project 2025. All week you'll see this giant, comically large book being slammed on the table and pages taken out of it. And the Trump campaign is taking many pages out of that book figuratively, just as we're ripping them out literally. There are some very concerning ways in which big moneyed movements and mega donors are influencing radical policy in this campaign. And the Kamala Harris-Walz campaign is focused on the people. This is a Democratic National Convention, but this is not just for Democrats. This is for all Americans.
And Corey, some real excitement there in your voice when I brought up and you mentioned early voting, because obviously, you're not just an advocate or a delegate, you're also a registrar of voters here in Connecticut. You're manning these polls, which, as we both said, are opening early here in Connecticut. People, maybe weren't happy with some of their choices during the primary presidential season. They saw a lot of upheaval in this race, but now that this campaign has really fully shifted to Harris, there's been so much focus on the presidential race. But, we obviously just had a primary last week here in Connecticut, a lot of important races coming out of that we covered. And that means that come October early voting and November, it's not just the presidential ticket on that ballot. There's so many other down ballot races.
Absolutely. It's not just the presidential ballot that's up in November. It's just so important that people look at their entire ballot and realize, there's so much more than just the presidency. This is the most high profile office in the land. And we saw in April and August, there was fairly low turnout. which isn't unusual for an April and August election. People are locked in and paying attention now, and I hope they're going to take that enthusiasm with them to the polls. I am committed to ensuring that every single voter in my town has access to their ballot, that they feel that they can come and vote, whether it's by early voting, absentee ballot, or in person on election day, whether it's a state rep or the president of the United States. We are hiring them. We are their boss to make sure that they fulfill their duties and represent us as their constituents.
Certainly a lot going on this past week. We have even more to cover here on The Real Story as we spoke with the Connecticut delegate who's now gone viral for unfurling a banner during President Biden's speech Monday night and a present vote in protest challenging Harris and his fellow Democrats. Stay with us.